Hey guys, it's Carissa and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Inkon3 Fadeout Designs. Today is Saturday, so that means Stamp Stash Saturday, and I'm creating this adorable birthday card using some Tiddly Inks clear stamps. So I picked up the stamp set last month at the Valentine's Day sale. I just couldn't resist. Boy stamps are very hard to come by where I find something that's cute because I like cute. So this is called My Boys, and it's by Tiddly Inks. And I'm stamping on some Fabriano Studio watercolor paper. It is hot pressed, 140 pound. It comes in a pad. It's relatively inexpensive, and it works just great for coloring. I'm going to be using this new ink by Inkon3. It's called their Fadeout. It's called Fadeout. It's for no line coloring. And I was super intrigued. I started seeing this ink around social media from different friends of mine that were using it. And I thought that looks really cool. I love the no line coloring look. And if this can make it just super easy, I'm in. So I definitely wanted to give it a try. I'm using my Jane Davenport watercolors along with some Designs by Rachel Beth watercolors that I get from Etsy. I have my 2 jars of water off to the side. I have a paper towel to do any kind of blotting that I need. And then I'm going to use my silver black velvet brushes. I have the round number 4 that I will use for coloring the stamp, and then I bring in my round number 8 to do the big splotchy loose background. So now I'm going to go in. I'm using my Misty to stamp because I like to use it whenever I'm doing watercolor, or I'm stamping on watercolor paper, in case I want to do like a double stamp. I know my image is going to be in the right place, so I'm just inking up the stamp and stamping it on my paper. I will say, when I got these inks, I got the 3-pack of Inkon3. They have like a 3-pack where you can get their 3 inks in a bundle for a lower price, and they are in stock. So if you like this video, you like what you see, they're back in stock. They were out of stock for a while because it's pretty popular. So I also got the Blackout Detail ink and their embossing ink. So I'm going to give those a try in future videos as well. But I will say, when I opened up the package, it was very there was a distinct odor. So if that bothers you, if odors bother you, these might not be the inks for you, but they do tend to fade away. So here is the stamped image. You can see it close up. It's very light. Almost like a khaki color is what I would call it, but you can really see the image clearly, which is great. And I always stamp off my image in a black ink, or if the packaging, like I was showing you, the packaging has the line art really clearly on it, I have that off to the side as my reference. I can look at it as I'm coloring, and these lines, when I was normally used to no line coloring, the lines would fade away and I'd be like, okay, where was that? What goes here? But with this ink, it's a little bit different. So I come in and I put in some color on his face, and I'm doing a wet on dry for his face. So I came in with that first layer on a completely dry paper, and then I laid it around the shadows where I would want them, and then I pulled out the color with a clean wet brush. So I was just being really careful with how I was coloring. So I'm pulling out my Rachel Beth watercolors here. My son's favorite color is blue, so I knew I wanted to have a lot of blue on this image. And so I come in with this darker blue for his jeans, and then that brighter blue for his shirt. Now, I probably would have done this differently, thinking about it and watching it back, because the blue, there's so little of his shirt peeking through behind that present. I probably should have done the present in that bright blue, but you know what? I think he's gonna like it anyway, and it's really, really cute. So when I'm coloring with these, with this no line ink or this fade out ink, I like to go up against the line art as much as I can, because what the ink is doing is it is picking up that color and pretty much becoming that color in the line art. So you'll see it when I go in closer to the hair. You'll see it really clearly, but it really picks up the line art from your stamp, and it's really neat. It's like magic. I know I've heard that over and over, that it's like magic, because that line does not stay that sepia color, or the color that you're stamped on your paper, but it becomes whatever color you're coloring your image with. And I am using watercolors, but I believe the same is true if you're using Copic markers or even colored pencils. I will go ahead and do some videos coming up. Maybe next week I'll do no line coloring with Copic markers. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the description box below. And I also have some videos, I believe. I go into the archives of my channel, and I think I have a no line coloring video in the traditional sense, where I stamped in a really light color and then colored it in with Copic markers. I will put an information card up here. You can check that out if you're interested. So here you can see really the ink properties on his hair. So I come in with this really light brown color, and I'm just doing a light wash for the first coat, and you can see that those lines turn from that light color to the brown color. So it picks up that ink, or picks up that color, and that's why I go around the edges. You'll see I kind of lightly go on the edges of my image so that it'll pick up that color, intensify that line, and then I can see like the outside of the image. And I do the same along his hairline. So I want it to become like the color of his hair and not the color of his skin. And yeah, so you can see I use my heat tool when I'm watercoloring, and I know I'm going to go in next to that spot. I'm going to heat set that so that I don't have any cross contamination of my colors. And you'll see that I jump around a lot as well when I'm watercoloring, because normally if I'm coloring an image, I always start with the skin. That's just what I do. And then I'll normally go in and do the hair, and then I'll do the clothing. But when I'm doing watercolors, I jump around. So if I do the skin first, which is a given, I don't want to do the hair, which is right next to the skin, because that area is still wet. And I really don't want that to affect, if I don't want to accidentally get that hair color into the skin. So I will jump to an area that is not next to the skin, work on that, and then I'll jump to an area that's not next to that. And so I do a lot of jumping around. Or if I've run out of places that I can jump to and my image is wet and I don't have another place to go, I will heat set it with my heat gun, and then make sure it's all dry, and then I can go in and start coloring again. But if I can, I like to jump around, just because the beauty of watercolors and what I love about watercolors is the way that it moves and blends on its own. Even after I've removed, my paintbrush from that area, it continues to kind of move and blend and do really cool things. And so if I can, I will just let it be and then come back to it later. But a lot of times, with a small area like this, I definitely need to heat set before I can go back into that area. So here I just, I'm adding a little bit more shading to the hair. I brought in a little bit more of a reddish brown to brighten that area up. I felt it was getting a little bit dull just with what I was doing. And then I'll come in and I can blot in some areas. So you can see that this paper, I can still blot up if I get too much pigment down. As long as it's still wet, I can definitely do that. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to add a little bit more shading around his face, just around the really darker areas, and blend that out. And I wish, like when I was like in hindsight watching, it's funny when you're watching back your videos and you're doing the voiceover, you see things that you wish you would have done, Or you see areas where you wish you would have stopped and you're like, no, 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 don't do anything. It looks great, because you can see it in a different perspective from this side. I wish I would have added some shading to his hands is what I was going to say when I added a little bit more shading to his face, because his hands kind of faded away. But, I'm really, this is just like a first look video, first impressions on this ink. That's really what I was thinking about the entire time that I was coloring, was how is this ink working? Do I like the way that it's working? Do I like the way that it's looking? So I think I need to practice with this a few more times, especially with a technique like this, even though this ink totally makes it a lot easier than what I remember no line coloring being in the past for myself. It's really cool. It's still a different technique, and it definitely, I need some work on it. And so I will be playing around with this and making some more cards with it, using my watercolors, different images. I think it's really cool look when you're painting florals or maybe nature scenes. I think this would be a really cool ink to use for that. But I like to do a lot of images, a lot of people images on my cards, so that tends to be what I'm going to pull out and what I'm going to practice with or kind of compare it with. But I think it's definitely a very unique ink. I don't have anything like it in my stash, so that's one thing that I like to consider when I'm picking something up is, do I have something that already does what this does? And I don't have an ink that does what this ink does, so that is definitely a bonus for me when I'm picking up a new product. So now I'm coming in and I'm doing the washi background that I love. I'm using the same greens that I used in the present, just to keep that very kind of cohesive. And I tried to add a little brown in the beginning to right here to do my drop shadow, but I didn't like it at all because his shoes are brown. It's same color brown, and it was just too close together, too close next to each other. So I added that green back in, and then I'll add the darker green from the Rachel Beth collection, and that gives me the drop shadow that I was looking for. So I'll come in and I'll add some clean water to the sky area, and I want you to pay close attention here. I'm putting this clean water and I just lightly touch the grass area right here, and you can see how that water just begins to bloom, not the water but the paint begins to bloom and move up into the sky area. Now that's why I always mention that I jump around in the image so much, because I wouldn't want something like that to happen when I'm painting the skin and I touch the hair. I wouldn't want that to happen if I'm painting his pants one color and then I come in with his shirt in another color. I wouldn't want that to happen. So that's why I jump around an image. But when I'm doing the background, I want that to happen. I love when that happens because it's very organic. It makes my background that much more dynamic. It makes it a lot more blended, and it just gives it a lot more texture. And then those two colors are blending and moving and working together, and I think it just looks really cool. So sometimes I'll even splash some of that color intentionally into those areas. But when it happened like that, I was just like, ooh, that's pretty. It almost looks like there's trees in the background, it just looks so awesome. And it really kind of fit with this whole card image because it's more of an illustrated kind of painted look. I love the way that it's coming together. And so I forgot to color his little bow tie. And this is another hindsight moment. If I was to do this card again, I would make his bow tie red. I just think that would have popped a little bit more against these softer areas, and it would have picked up those lines better than this light gray did. But like I said, hindsight, I could always make this card again if I want to in the future. There's so many cute images in this stamp set. My daughter actually made a card for my son using the other little boy with a vest on in this set, which is so cute. It's just, I love that it has 3 images in it, you know, so you have that variety for your boy cards. And yeah, so now I'm coming in with a Polychromos color pencil in dark sepia. When you're no line coloring, you tend to lose the facial features underneath all of that coloring that you're doing. And so this is the part where I would always mess up in the past, and I think that's really why I like turned away from the no line coloring look, because I was never comfortable with this part of it. But with this ink, I see enough of the features that I can come back in and bring them back out. I didn't want to use a black ink because I thought that would be too stark against this really cute, soft colored look that I had. So the colored pencil in the dark sepia was the perfect touch. It remained with that illustrated look that I was going for, and it darkened up those facial features enough that you could see them, but it didn't take away from any of the other coloring. So I put my card together just very simply. I used a My Favorite Things wonky rectangle die. I used some foam adhesive to pop that up on my card base, and just a couple enamel dots. I kept it really simple for this. Wraps it up for today's video. Thanks you guys so much for watching again. I love these Stamp Stash videos every Saturday. I hope you're enjoying them as well. Thank you guys again so much for continuing to watch and like and share my videos. Be sure to give this one a thumbs up, and if you aren't already, subscribe to my channel to see more videos like it. It really encourages and inspires me to continue making more content for you guys. As you know, Jessie joins me every Saturday, so check out her video. I'll have a link in the description box or right here for you to head on over there. I hope you guys like the variety you get on my channel. You can find me on social media anywhere as Inkon3 Designs, so Instagram if you want to follow me there. And I'll be back on Monday for another mixed media video. Until then, do something creative today. Bye.